When I was young, I was bullied hard for being overweight. It affected me on such a deep level that I developed a vision of this superhuman I would become so nobody could hurt me anymore. I spent most of my teens and 20s making this vision a reality. I did everything in my power to become that vision, even causing damage to my health. Fast forward 15 years and I ended up crashing out hard in my 30s. I went from fitness freak to fat in a matter of a year. I ended up going on testosterone replacement therapy and making the biggest comeback of my life. In this video, I'm going to share my near 2 years experience using testosterone replacement therapy. I'm going to answer some valid questions like, did it cure my depression? Did it in fact cure my erectile dysfunction? And did it turn me into a ripped superhuman Hulk like a lot of people assume? I've talked about this previously on my channel, but it takes a lot of time in order to see the side effects and the benefits to TRT, and I want to share an update as I've been on it for almost 2 years now. I also understand a lot of people are interested in TRT and what it can do for an aging middle-aged man like myself. I'll do my best to be as descriptive as possible in sharing my own anecdotal experience with my side effects and the benefits that I've gained. I want to preface this video by saying I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving out any type of medical advice. This is just me sharing my own personal experience so you can see at home what could happen in a situation like this. Everything I'm describing in this video is under a doctor's supervision. I take about 14 vials of blood out of my arm every 6 months. I almost faint halfway through it, and I'm not even afraid of needles. That's how much blood work we're doing for the purpose of my TRT and checking my levels. I also want to clarify that when I started taking TRT, I made some major lifestyle changes. I started eating better, lifting more weights, and stopped consuming toxic substances that could alter my brain chemistry. And I also started doing a lot more cardio. Another thing that I want to preface this video with is that I've always been kind of like an athlete, so I've always had a lot of muscle. I've also achieved my maximum strength, both naturally and enhanced, so my results may not be typical. Some people who start TRT, they just start taking it because they just want to feel better and they want their testosterone to go back to normal and don't even work out at all. The main reason why I started TRT was for my mental health. I've talked about it extensively on this channel that I went through a major crisis, and through a lot of therapy, psychiatric analysis, and blood work, I found out that my testosterone levels and my thyroid were extremely low. Prior to this, I was on some medication for my mental health as I was hospitalized. Under a doctor's supervision, I slowly got off the medication that I was on. Having really low thyroid and low testosterone can cause some serious depression issues. My low testosterone and thyroid was most likely due to the years of bodybuilding that I did. I competed in one bodybuilding show, but I did bodybuilding for a long time. And there's a lot of really unhealthy things that really affect your endocrine system when you're doing bodybuilding. Another symptom I had prior to starting TRT is my joints were killing me. My muscles were really sore. I had a really bad injury to my hand, and my hand was broken. I had a really bad injury to my shoulder from jiu-jitsu. So in June 2023, I decided to go to a TRT clinic, and we ended up doing comprehensive blood work. The blood test revealed that my free testosterone was at 287 nanograms per deciliter. Now, a normal range for a healthy adult male is between 300 and 1000 nanograms per deciliter. So I was below the lowest healthy range. My overall testosterone was at 22.7. I'm gonna share my thyroid reading from the free T3. It was at 3.8. I also filled out a form to assess my symptoms. My symptoms, along with the low testosterone, the low thyroid, qualified me for testosterone replacement therapy. I was prescribed 120 milligrams of testosterone enanthate per week. I started doing it once per week. I noticed that towards the end of the week, my mood started dipping. So it was causing irregularities in my mood. And that was the main purpose of me taking the testosterone, was to kind of help me out with my depression and pull me out of a deep rut. So I started taking 2 shots per week, and I noticed that my mood was a lot more stable. So that's what I stuck with, was 2 shots per week. When I first started taking the thyroid and the testosterone, I noticed the thyroid almost immediately. Prior to taking the medication, I was sleeping like 15 hours a day. I was extremely depressed. Anything that I had to do was a struggle. There was days where I didn't even want to take a shower because I was just so depressed. It felt like a chore just to take a shower. I was off work for a little bit because of what I was going through and because of all of the side effects of going through a major mental health crisis. And anybody that's watching this video, if you're going through a mental health crisis right now, I just want to let you know I have a lot of respect for you for just getting up and doing your everyday things and trying to function as best as you can. You 100% will get through it. I've been through this more than once. I know what it's like to struggle with your mental health. I know what it's like to struggle with anxiety. I know what it's like to have a manic episode. I know what it's like to be so depressed that you can barely function. That was the main purpose of me doing this TRT, and it really helped me pull myself out of this situation. That being said, I went to multiple medical professionals to figure this out. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying this is what helped me pull myself out of this rut, using the testosterone, getting psychiatric evaluation, and getting therapy. I don't want to go too much into mental health with this video, but therapy is like one of the most important things that you can do for your mental health. There's so many things that we tell ourselves, there's so many things that we do that are behaviors that we repeat that cause issues with our mental health. And I learned a lot about that through therapy. My last resort was taking the TRT. This was not something I really wanted to do, especially at 38 years old. I thought that I was gonna wait a little bit longer before I started the TRT. I knew that with my previous bodybuilding experience, I'd have to end up taking TRT because bodybuilding isn't healthy and it affects your endocrine system very negatively. For any young person that's watching this, be very careful what you put into your body. We take things for granted when we're young, and when we get older, it affects us. And it might not even affect you physically. Like, I didn't notice the physical effects that much. It was more my mental health. My mental health took a turn for the worse in my mid-30s, and I didn't know how to deal with it. It was very difficult. So if you're going through something, I commend you, and you'll 100% get through it. So the thyroid helped me with my sleep. I was going from like sleeping between 13 and 15 hours of sleep a day. I was struggling with my depression. I didn't have any drive. I didn't want to do anything. I work a physical job. Lifting anything was really difficult. I don't know if I just didn't have the mental fortitude to lift things anymore. It just felt really heavy. Everything felt heavy. Walking felt heavy. Taking a shower felt heavy. Brushing my teeth felt heavy. Anybody who's been through depression knows this. Now, when I started taking the thyroid, after a few days, I started noticing I had a little more pep in my step, and I was a little bit more excited for life, and I didn't have to sleep as much. That had a major impact on how I felt in my life, and it helped me a lot with my depression. After about 2 weeks, I started noticing the effects of the testosterone. My libido started increasing, and I started getting morning again. I know that sounds funny, but I started noticing every morning I was getting it. The best way to describe how I felt at this point was I was starting to feel more optimized. I felt a lot more motivated once the testosterone was kicking in. So it was like a synergistic effect between the testosterone and the thyroid, and I started getting a lot of energy. I was able to move around a lot easier. I started getting stronger in the gym, and I started feeling a lot more energized. I felt like a champion, and I was ready to take all the tasks on ahead. By the 2-month mark, I started really noticing my strength was increasing. As I stated before, when I started the TRT, I had really bad injuries from jiu-jitsu, powerlifting, my work, and also just in general from just getting old. And I started noticing that I wasn't feeling injured anymore. Like, my elbows weren't hurting, my chest wasn't hurting, my shoulders weren't hurting, my knees weren't hurting as much, and I was able to lift a lot heavier weights. I started getting considerably stronger, but gradually. It doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people think you take TRT and like a week later you're like running a marathon and like running through walls. It doesn't work like that. It takes time for the effects to kick in, and it can take up to years for you to really see the effects. The only issue I had with this newfound strength is I started taking for granted that I wasn't injured, and there was times where I was pushing myself too hard because I felt like I did when I was in my 20s. I remember the first time I went and grabbed 100-pound dumbbells again. I was so excited that I could do them, and I ended up kind of hurting my shoulder a little bit, just a little tweak, and I had to take a couple weeks off of doing my chest. So when you start taking TRT, your body is stronger than it naturally is, and that could lead to injuries if you push yourself too hard. So you still have to be mindful of your body's own natural abilities, and you have to gradually do things. I'm an overly ambitious person, and sometimes I push myself too hard. So to quantify my strength, let's go over the grandfather of exercises, is the bench press. So when I first started doing the TRT, I was really badly injured, so I really couldn't do much. I could barely even touch the bar. But prior to this, my regular strength, I was benching like 185 pounds for maybe 5 or 8 reps. I had lost a lot of strength from jujitsu. When I was younger, I could bench like 3 plates for repetitions. But over time doing jujitsu, your body doesn't need that muscle mass anymore. And when you're transitioning from bodybuilding to jujitsu, you slowly lose that muscle and your body only uses what it needs. So I ended up getting down to benching about 185 pounds for 5 to 8 repetitions. Now I've been on TRT for about 2 years, and the best bench I've had is I've been able to do like 225 for like 13 reps. I noticed my grip strength has gone up considerably. Like when I broke my hand and I was recovering, I didn't have very good grip strength. And now I have much better grip strength. I did notice with the TRT that my grip strength has gone up. I have a better neuromuscular connection now. I know obviously that's probably over time, you just recover, but the TRT definitely helped. I'm able to deadlift like 315 pounds for like 10 reps if I push it. I think in the summer I almost got it up to 15 reps, which is good enough. Nobody needs to lift more than 315 pounds off the ground for any more than even a few repetitions. Deadlifting is an exercise that kind of measures your actual strength. I know most people think it's bench press, but the deadlift is usually the one that shows how strong you actually are, because it's what you're lifting off the ground and you're using your whole body to lift it. Another thing I noticed is now I'm back to doing full extension pull-ups. That's having your arms locked out and pulling all the way up and coming back and locking your arms out again. I can do 11 consecutive lockout pull-ups. I don't know if this is entirely because of TRT. That is a benchmark of upper body strength. If you can do 10 pull-ups full lockout, you have a strong upper body. So that's another statistic that has gone up since I started doing TRT. I also started getting back into running, and I noticed that my body recovers a lot quicker, and I'm able to run 4 to 5 times a week, 5 kilometers. And I'm getting closer to my old numbers where I was running 5K in 20 minutes. Another question a lot of people ask about TRT is, does it help you lose body fat? And I would say, yes, it does. Initially, when you start doing TRT, you put on water weight. It just like volumizes your system, your red blood cell count goes up, and you get bigger and stronger. With that comes water retention. But after your body starts leveling out and you start getting into a good routine and you're eating clean, I noticed that my body fat went down a lot. That being said, it's not gonna go down unless you make lifestyle changes. If you're sitting on the couch and eating potato chips and taking TRT, you're probably gonna look fatter than you did if you just did that without TRT. So you have to be mindful of what you're eating. I'm very careful about what I put into my body. I do a lot of cardio. I noticed that my body fat has gone down quite a bit. Plus, when you have more muscle, you generally look leaner and your body burns more fat because muscle requires more energy. I noticed that on average, I have a 4-pack. I've never really had good abs. So having a 4-pack for me is pretty good. So if you're eating generally healthy, and you don't have to go super hard, you don't have to be on like a super ketogenic diet to stay in really good shape. You just have to watch your calories in versus calories out. I've been on a low sugar diet for a long time, and that definitely helped with me being leaner and maintaining this 4-pack that I have. Overall, my mood isn't over the top. I'm not like perpetually happy doing like cartwheels down the street with rainbows flying out of my ass, but I'm definitely a lot happier than I was prior to taking TRT. It definitely helped me with my depression, which was the main focus of this, because I had a lot of issues with my mood stabilization. I took medication for this. I was under psychiatric analysis for a while. I've had multiple appointments with different doctors. That being said, if life kicks you in the ass, you can still get depressed while you're on TRT. It's not some miracle drug that you take and you get jacked and you're always happy. I would say it does change your life completely, but it's not as dramatic as some people might think. The problem with us is we see stuff on social media and somebody comes out and says, I take TRT. The majority of these influencers that admit they're on TRT and they look the way they do, they either have very good genetics or they're not telling you the whole story. From my own observation, a lot of them are taking other stuff. They're taking probably growth hormone, they're taking some other steroid, and they're taking TRT. And they might not even be taking the recommended dose. They could be overdosing the TRT. And the problem with this is it gives an unrealistic expectation for people when they go on TRT. A lot of people that are on TRT, you wouldn't even notice that they're on TRT because they just look like normal people. I'm in decent shape, but I don't think I look like I'm huge. I used to be massive. I used to be a huge bodybuilder. I've gotten up to 250 pounds. I've always been super jacked. But now that I'm older, I've brought my levels of muscle down because it's not healthy. It's not healthy to walk around weighing 100 kilos plus or weighing over 225 pounds. I'm around 200 right now. When I first started the TRT, I was at about, I think I was at like 215 to 220 pounds, but I was fat. My arms were like shrunken down. My belly was sticking out. I'll show a picture of that. Now I'm in probably the best shape I've ever been in. I'm very well balanced, and that's the most important thing. Being balanced is the most important thing when it comes to your lifestyle. I used to overwork myself. I have a business and I used to take on too much because I wanted to make lots of money and I wanted to do the best that I could. But the problem with being that ambitious sometimes is going too fast can actually make you go slower. And I ended up crashing out and my life kind of went down the drain for a while. The TRT, along with all the things that I've learned along the way about balancing out your life and having a better approach to time management in what you do. And I'm not perfect at any of this stuff, but I've learned over time that all of these things accumulating have helped me have a better sense of well-being. The TRT definitely helps me with being able to maintain a positive mindset. It gives you like a drive because testosterone is the male sex hormone. It gives you a drive to do things. It makes you want to go out and kind of conquer the world. When you have low testosterone, you're a little bit more withdrawn and you're a lot more down. Like you just don't have that energy. This gives you the energy of like a 25-year-old. Like I feel a lot more energetic. I feel a lot more willing to go out there and take on things. And I need that for my business. I need that for this channel. So it definitely helped me with gaining drive to do more things with my life. I was extremely depressed before I started TRT, and now I'm even motivated to do things and disciplined to do things that I don't even want to do. I was a lot more withdrawn prior to my treatment. As I stated in a previous video, I got to the point where I was like agoraphobic. I didn't want to leave my house. I had anhedonia, so my dopamine was just destroyed. It was completely fried, and I was very aloof. I didn't want to talk to people, and now I am a lot more outgoing. I'm still kind of like an introvert because I don't really like associating with too many people. I like to have a smaller circle of friends. I think that just happens naturally as we get older, but I'm a lot more outgoing than I was previously. And I attribute a lot of that to my therapy and my testosterone replacement therapy. So let's compare my first set of blood work to my current blood work. My free testosterone is currently at 713. It's more than doubled since 2023. My T3 is at 6. And it was once at 3.8. The doctor likes the range I'm in. My thyroid has almost doubled since I started. And like I said before, I don't need to sleep as much and I have a lot more energy. That being said, I like sleeping. If I can sleep in, I will sleep in. If I could sleep in 12 hours, I'll sleep in 12 hours. I just like sleeping. I don't know why. I think it's just because I put myself under so much stress. I want to sleep as much as I can when I can. Overall, testosterone replacement therapy has dramatically improved my life. It's not a miracle drug. I'm not going to be winning the Olympics anytime soon, but it's definitely made me a lot stronger, a lot happier. It's given me morning again. It's cured the erectile dysfunction. I feel a lot better about my life right now. I'm in a positive trajectory. I still get down sometimes. There are still times where I feel depressed. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to bullshit you and tell you that it's just going to make everything perfect. You still have to do a lot of work to make it work for you. My body composition has gotten a lot better. There's so many things that have happened that are better since I've taken testosterone replacement therapy. There is a downside to it. The one downside that I really noticed, if I don't take my testosterone for a week or if I don't take it for 10 days, I notice a major dip in my mood, and it takes a while for me to recalibrate my system and get back on track. Another negative to taking TRT is having to inject yourself twice a week. A lot of people don't like taking needles. I don't think testosterone replacement therapy is for somebody who's afraid of needles because you literally have to administer it twice a week. Another downside to testosterone replacement therapy is the cost of it. I pay $400 twice a year for my appointments, plus it's about $200 a month for me to take my testosterone and my 2 different type of thyroid medication. It's a lifelong commitment and it's not to be taken lightly. Another side effect of testosterone replacement therapy is it can cause infertility in males. So if you want to have kids, you have to think very hard about taking it. I hope this video painted a good picture of an anecdotal account from some random middle-aged guy who's taking TRT. If you like this type of content, let me know in the comments. If you want to like and subscribe to this video, it helps me with the algorithm and it helps me reach more people. Have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening. See you in the next video. I'm out.